This 911 Strong podcast is brought to you by our partners at the Police Credit Union of California.
As a financial institution founded by law enforcement for law enforcement and their families over 65 years ago, they have the experience and understanding to help you with all your financial needs,
including exclusive products designed specifically for law enforcement professionals. To become a member today, visit thepolicecu.org. That's the police, the letter C, and the letter U.org.
Or call 800-222-1391 and tell them you heard about them from the 911 Strong podcast. Hey guys, welcome to the 911 Strong podcast. With me is my fearless co-host, Kristen.
What up?
What up? See, you're trying really hard not to say, hey.
I know, I am.
Okay. Well,
you scarred me.
Well, you're changing, and that kind of goes on our topic of our podcast today. What's going on with the world? Everything's changing. The Ukraine happened a couple of weeks ago, and now we're reading some crazy, I almost cussed, but crazy stuff going on in our own backyard. So we'll talk about that, including why men who identify as women are sleeping with your children. We'll talk about, absolutely insane. We'll talk about that and a lot more when we get back to this episode of the 911 Strong podcast.
Station to all units.
Prepare to copy.
You're listening to the 911 Strong podcast.
Don't act like I never told you.
With Aram and Kristen, bringing you stimulating discussion.
No, I like the sound of that.
An entertaining conversation.
And now, here's Kristen and Aram.
Hey guys, welcome back to the 911 Strong podcast. With me as always is Kristen. What's going on, Kristen?
Nothing much, just some interesting stuff today.
Yeah, you and I talked about some of the stuff before we started recording. The world is just crazy right now. It's backwards. But one of the articles that you brought up was just completely bizarre. You want to go ahead and talk about that?
Yeah. So just to let you all know, because we're very intrigued with fact checking, and this article has been deemed fact checked per newspunch.com, which I've never known of them, but whatever.
These fact-checking places are just as unreliable as the news.
Seriously. The article title is California School Forced Fifth Grade Girls to Sleep with Men Who Identify as Women During the Trip, which obviously is a clickbait thing. So trying to be neutral about it. However, it says that a liberal school in California has come under fire after it emerged that teachers forced young girls as young as 10 to sleep with men who identify as women during a school trip. So these parents were demanding answers, and what it was is the kids were sent off to a science school, and their daughters had male counselors who identified as they and them, and they felt more comfortable sleeping in the girls' cabins. So this was for 3 nights, and the parents weren't informed about it until the children had told their parents about it, not the school, not the organization. So righteously, they were ticked about it. It didn't identify what law it is, but it does say per California law, they can place the staff in cabins that they identify with.
Wow.
So, I mean, there's, granted, there's probably a bunch of crazy laws out there that California has been doing because it's California and they do insane stuff. But now, obviously, this school is under fire because the parents are just, righteously angered by all of that. So, not saying that it couldn't happen everywhere. I guess it could, but I think living as a law enforcement family, my daughter, I just got the permission slip this week to send her off to a camp for a week. And in there, it said no phones for the kids.
Oh. And
after seeing this, I'm like, yeah, not that I think it would happen, but at the same time, you just never know. And I think because we look at the world in a different lens, I'm like, oh no, my kid's going to have a phone in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't allow that, and not saying that all men that identify that way are child molesters, because they're not, but I don't want a male spending the night in the room with my female daughter.
No, because you and I have been on the job long enough to know when we talk to these victims, they all say, we didn't know. We trusted him. We trusted him. We would
Yeah.
have never thought it was him. Of course not.
Yes.
They manipulate you. They groom you. They put you in these situations. They're predatory. So they know the game. Oftentimes they were victims themselves. So they pull from their experiences and they know exactly what children think and how they think. And they want to put them in situations where they're vulnerable. That's how they get to them. So, in the article that you read, so these men, they weren't transgender. They just they identified as them, they.
It didn't say that they were transgender. It just
Okay.
said they identified as they and them.
Right. So them, they are
So
people that are non-binary. They don't identify as a he or a she.
right. So it doesn't say if they were dressed as men or dressed as women or anything like that. They just identified with those pronouns, and that because they use those pronouns, they went to sleep in the girls' cabin for 3 nights.
Speaking of pronouns, did you know Michael Jackson's pronouns were he? Sorry.
I opened you up for that. Oh my God. I'm so sorry, you guys.
I was waiting for an opportunity to do that. And if you don't know Michael Jackson, then you think, what an idiot this guy is. But he used to say he.
Yeah. Our younger crowd might not know that.
Man, maybe. I don't know. But I as a parent of young girls, I don't know that I would feel comfortable without a chaperone of the same gender.
Yeah.
To me, them, they is not the same gender.
A biological gender.
Well, even if it was a male that turned to transgender or, became a female, to me, they've identified as a female. I mean, that would be not that I'd be okay with it because it's still a biological male, but it's more acceptable than someone that hasn't identified, because anybody can say, I'm a guy, but identify as female just so I can get in the room and get my kicks, And I'm not saying that these guys did that, but it sure does open the opportunity for men now that this is on the news, to say, hey, if I'm, for lack of a better word, a pervert, child molester, I know a way in now. I can be a camp counselor and identify as a them, they. I don't have to change my gender. I don't have to wear women's clothes. I can go in just as I am as a man and say I'm a them, they, and now I'm in a room with girls in PJs.
Yeah. Yeah. I just don't. I think it's just opening up for more problems and more people to be victimized, because there are those that will take advantage of it. Like, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't remember if he was a registered sex offender or not, but remember that big ol' I don't want to say catastrophe, but big ol' incident in LA where it was a women's gosh, always when I'm put on the spot, I can't think. But it was like a women's day spa. And this guy went in there and was walking around naked, and he's like, well, I identify as a woman. And he wasn't. He was like a pervert, right?
Perverted man.
Yeah. So he knew, hey, if I just throw this out there, I'm going to get the backing, because that's the time that we're in nowadays. And he did. He got a lot of support. There was a few little mini riots. There was a bunch of protests and all this stuff. And then once the truth came out, like, oh, okay. And then it kind of just disappeared,
Yeah. So it was the Wee Spa in LA. I remember that one because it was a Korean day spa, and they're really popular in LA because they're kind of like Roman bathhouses, and you spend all day there. They do all sorts of things. But this man, you're right, he claimed to be transgender, but he clearly wasn't. He was a man that just wanted to be in the women's area for whatever reason. So after this, a lot of questions were raised, and it's actually some protests did happen, like you mentioned. But now it's going to be a Supreme Court case. It's worked its way up there, and they have to decide if someone just claims their gender, if that's appropriate. And yesterday when we were out to lunch yesterday, I went to the restroom. There was a women's restroom, and then there was a woman/men's restroom. There was no restroom just for men.
You know why? Because you guys are quicker than women.
Okay, but
and so we need more bathrooms. We need more bathroom stalls.
Out of it? How do we get left out of it?
Because you guys could just stand up and do your business. We have to go through a whole process. It's not that easy.
Okay, well, that's not fair. What if I'm wearing button fly jeans? That's a lot of buttons.
It's still going to take you longer than a woman who has a button fly jean.
Okay, what if I'm wearing a man's onesie? Have you seen those jumpers?
Women
And
wear jumpers.
that's what I'm saying. It puts us on the even playing ground now. I have to take the entire top off just to go number one. And what if I had to go number two? It's the same process. If I had to go number
Well,
two.
yeah, but that's not as frequent, I think, as people just when they're drinking wine, people have to use number one more than number two.
Well, you're just assuming that that's how my biological, physiological stuff works. But wine might trigger this number two action, maybe a number three action. You never know. 1 + 2.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just, I think for those places that didn't have like a lot of bathrooms, obviously, like how
The
they solved the
solution.
problem is just slap
Well,
a guy girl bathroom.
I'm not comfortable with a line of ladies outside and me walking in, dropping a deuce, and no poopery on hand, and they have to walk in after me. I feel bad for them.
Well, now
and
you
it's
need to
embarrassing
carry
for
your
me.
poopery. So everybody who's listening, when you run into Aram, please bring him some poopery.
Oh, we need to send this clip over to the people at Poopery so we can get sponsored. But seriously, I'm okay with another dude walking in after me. I mean, I'll even give him a wink. But good luck.
Oh my God.
But another female, it's embarrassing.
Gross. Ew, that's so nasty. Yeah, I feel bad for any female that has to walk in after a guy, but
Exactly.
like there's
So-
some that leave the toilet seat up. Like, what's wrong with you guys? Like, put it down, especially in a public area. Like at
Well,
home, we can yell at our husbands, but
yeah.
in a public area
I don't
that
know,
you're
that's what I'm-
sharing toilets, put it
That's
down.
why I'm saying we should not, men and women should not share the same bathroom. It's different.
Yeah, it is. I know.
You don't want to
Yes.
go in there after
What's
a
even
guy.
gross is when it's a multi one and like we have to look at the urinal while we're in there. It's so gross.
Why?
So
Okay.
nasty.
I've never heard that before. Why are urinals gross? I've never heard that.
It's just gross because they're really dirty.
Are they? I don't know.
I'm not going to go into graphic stuff on here, but that is the most disgusting thing to look at. And like the little like mints that they have in there, like
No, they're pucks for odor.
hockey
Odor
pucks,
pucks.
whatever you want to
Yeah.
call them. It just, I don't know. It's like, it's nasty.
When I was growing up, I remember one of my first distinct memories was going to Dodger Stadium with my dad, and I had to pee. And when you're a little kid, you're a little gun shy, and there's no stalls in there, or all the stalls that were there were occupied, but there's troughs. You know what a
Ew.
trough is?
Like just one major one?
One large trough that wrapped around in a
Ew.
circle, and all the men just kind of look at each other or they go pee.
Oh,
And I remember being, I could barely reach that height. So my dad had to hold me up while my pants were down to my ankles, and I just had to aim away.
blood at it.
And my dad was like, concentrate, because he knew I was gun shy. To concentrate, son. You must do this to make a family proud. Get in there. I remember him making the waterfall sound like, shh. So my dad, that's not helping. Stop. He's like, so quiet. You go pee pee.
Oh, this is not the episode we planned, guys. Seriously. But now we all have known what it was like for Aram as a child.
There are so many guys that, especially if you grew up in the LA area and had to go to Dodger Stadium in the 70s and 80s, you knew exactly what I was talking about.
Oh my God. All right. Well, if anybody did have that experience, put it in our reviews on the comments and
All right. So I got
let
another story.
Aram know he's not alone.
I got another story. So do you remember our old public works, how we had to fill up gas over there off of Santa Anita?
Yes.
Okay. So when I first got hired here and when I was on training, we had to get gas, and my FTO, I asked him where the bathroom was, and he pointed to this room where the bathroom was. But there was also this thing that looked like a trough.
Oh my
So
God.
that's where I went pee. And I've been going there for like 3 weeks. And it looked like a trough. It was a trough. So I'm going pee. And then my FTO at the time, Dave Rios, he says, hey, I got to go pee too. I'll follow you in. So we go, and he makes a left. I make a right. He's like, where are you going? I'm going pee. He's like, where? I've been using this thing. He's like, that's the decontamination thing. That's where the construction guys go and contaminate their hands and boots and stuff like that. So,
Well, I guess it was meant to like clean stuff.
yeah, not dirty.
Ew, that's so
So,
gross.
Oh yeah. So a lot of these guys recontaminated themselves after trying to decontaminate.
Like, why does it smell?
Hey, mine stuff unless I eat asparagus.
Oh, that's
Why
so
does that
gross.
happen? Why does your urine smell like asparagus after you eat asparagus. All right, we're talking. Okay, it's gross. Gross talk. Kristen, you're disgusting.
You started it.
You did.
You started it with the bathroom talk. With the two different men, women, and
because of the gender
women.
thing, and you brought up the gender thing. So
oh my gosh.
it's all your fault. You wanted this podcast. It was your fault.
I just thought that the article brought up me hesitating sending my daughter to a camp without a phone.
Yeah, no, I agree. And then I had thought about the bathroom, and that's what happened. Okay, I'll take the blame. I'll be chivalrous. Men, it's always your fault. So this is my fault.
It is. You guys will live longer if you just admit that.
All right. Well, that is crazy, and there are multiple stories like that. I'm sure there's a lot of other stories like that that haven't made the news.
Yeah,
but we know what's going on. It's. And I'm not saying I got to be careful with this because now we're gonna get complaints. Not all people